have Chris Bogue here with me this morning, and I feel really lucky that I was able to get him on my show because I think he is a very, very busy bee. So I just want to give him a little introduction to you. He is a writer and a video coach who specializes in sketch comedy. That's a hard word for me to say, sketch comedy and sales. He has a business, Chris Bogue Communications, and creates personalized video content that drives revenue for business owners. His superpower is helping you play to your strengths and sound natural on camera. Now, Chris has recently released a new course called The Complete Guide to Selling on Video, and he will tell us more about that. Right, Chris?
That's right.
Okay, so Chris, we know you was a funny guy on LinkedIn. Now, were you always funny? When did you find your funny bone?
So, I believe that everybody is funny, just not when they are trying to be. So, I guess my answer is I have always been funny, but in the beginning that was not the plan. My dad, um, he describes to me this party I was at when I was a little kid, and I was like 3 years old, and there was this jar of M&Ms, and I kept walking up and trying to like take some and act like I wasn't taking some. And, it was just cracking the adults up, but I was not trying to be funny. I was trying to be sneaky. And the more I make video content, the more I find that the moment where we are trying to be funny is not the moment where we're funny. People are funniest when they are not trying to be funny. When they are at their most natural, that's when the comedy happens.
Yeah, I agree with you because when you try too hard to be funny, it just doesn't land the way you want it to. So I find that when I talk with my family and just joking around, I'll say something not intentionally funny, but then my whole family laughs at me. I said, "Oh, okay, that was funny," even if I didn't plan it that way. But it's interesting how that happens. So, but since you were a kid, you weren't trying to be funny. You were just kind of sneaky, and
Well, it's because I have very big eyes, right? So
yes, I can tell.
um, that's a gift when you're on stage. And that's also, it's like you can convey a lot. And the reason why I've fallen in love with video is because you can convey a lot with your body language, you know.
Yes,
And again, it's the fact that I think it was the fact that I was trying to look confident. I was trying to look non-suspicious, but I probably looked very suspicious. Um, that's where the comedy happens. There's always this tension between like what are you supposed to be doing and what are you actually doing. And I was trained at Chicago's Second City, which is a theater where they've been doing sketch comedy and improv since the 1950s, and it's very satirical. You are satirizing pop culture and the news and the city of Chicago and yourself. And they always teach you want to find the truth in comedy. Start with a version of you that's 99% the same, but you pick one thing and you blow it out of comic proportion, and when 99% of you is grounded and using those real feelings, the audience gives you license to take that one thing and really push the envelope with it.
yeah. You mentioned sketch comedy and improv. Improv is kind of like you get on stage and you just riff and make up lines. Is that how it works? Improv? It's all impromptu kind of
Yeah,
thing.
so improv is no script, no lights or no props, no costumes.
Mhm.
Um, you just start with a suggestion from the audience. And
Oh, okay.
there's a
Okay.
few different kinds of improv. So the easiest way to break it down is short form or long form. So short form is like, if you've ever seen the show Whose Line Is It Anyways? Or um
No, I have never seen it. No.
yeah, so short form improv is where you play games, you know, um be games like the alphabet game, where somebody says, oh, a sentence that starts with the letter A, then the next person has to start with B, then C. you know
Okay. Okay.
yeah, there's like thousands of short form games that people in improv play. um but long form improv, which is what Chicago is famous for, is like, yeah, there's an audience, they give you one word, and then you just go for like at least 30 minutes, and it's characters, it's um you're creating characters, and then you're bringing them back later. And there's like a dichotomy in the improv world, where some people only do short form and they think that long form is boring, or they do long form and they think that short form is like a gimmick, whereas I always did both. I always believed it was good, like, be able to do the character work, but also be able to play those like short kind of snappy games. And I have this real anything goes kind of style, where I'm always borrowing from different genres. I'm always trying different things. And when I was learning improv, I did a lot of different types. So I did fully improvised musicals. I did improvised full-length dramatic plays where it was not the goal to be funny. I did improvised sitcoms where you had to make up a sitcom on the spot. I did an improvised wrestling show, where I had to learn how to like throw people through tables and stuff. I very much relish all the different types of genres out there, and when you just kind of throw genres together, it ends up being really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really exciting. It sounds like a good way for people like me who are really shy and don't like to be have the focus of attention on me. I don't like that at all. So it's a good way to kind of help you get out of your shell, right? To like throw yourself on stage and do improv.
Well, yeah, and here's the
Or
thing
you
about
can always,
improv that I think people don't realize, Juana, is it's all about supporting the other person. They teach you in improv, it is not about you, it is about everybody but you.
yeah,
So that is the secret of improv, is everybody you see on the stage, they have been trained not to go for the joke themselves. They have been trained to set the other people up on stage to look good. And whenever I have a guest on my show and I'm going to do an improv bit or something, I remind them before the show starts. I go, hey, my job is to make you look good. you know do not worry about whatever I'm going to say, because whatever I'm going to say, it'll happen in the moment.
yeah,
But I'm never going to get the joke at your expense. I'm never going to like try to make the other person look stupid. I'm going to try to support them no matter what they do. And that's something that people aren't used to. And until you've been in an environment where you actually get to experience that, it's hard for people to imagine.
yeah. I can imagine the yeah, yeah. It's not. That's what I tell myself all the time. As an introvert, somebody shy. Well, I'm less shy now than I was, but yeah, people really aren't paying attention to you. They're paying more attention to themselves.
Right.
How they look or how they seem more than you. They focus more on themselves than you. So you win and you care for nothing, right? Really. So it's like, okay, well, nobody really cares. As long as I think nobody really cares, then just do your own thing. And but I wanted to know, Are there any comedians or that have inspired you when you were growing up? Not so much now. I know you have your favorites now, but when you were growing up, were there any comedians that inspired you? Who were they?
Um, Growing up, so Chris Farley was one of them. Chris
Yeah,
Farley.
so funny.
Um, I remember just being
Yeah.
a kid watching Chris Farley and thinking like, this is the funniest guy I've ever seen. Chris Farley was Second City, and he was another one where you see
Oh,
this big.
yes. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. He came from the Second City. His Van Down by the River sketch, that was a Second City sketch, and that was Bob Odenkirk actually wrote that. Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul
Oh, I
and
love
Breaking
Bob. I love Bob Odenkirk. I have like a big crush on him. He just
Bad.
blows me away. He just blows me away. He's so talented. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, Bob wrote the Van Down by the River sketch with Chris Farley
Oh,
at Second City.
oh, cool. Now I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, if you watch it, like they might have taken it off of the internet. Second City might have taken it down, but it's like, yeah, if you watch the sketch that later went on to SNL, Bob Odenkirk played the dad, whereas on SNL it was Phil Hartman played it. But Chris Farley is the perfect
Cool.
example of, you see this guy, he's big, he's loud, he's like too much for people. Um, and people just assume, oh, he must have been a very selfish player. But Chris Farley was actually known as being a support player. He was very supportive, and everybody loved him because they knew if Chris got into a scene with them, he was going to make sure it was funny, like no matter what, um, just
That's
absolute,
that's a
comic genius, but
true,
really
yeah,
supportive guy.
that's a true talent. That's one of the big things that you, as any kind of a performer, to support others. And, and that helps you also, when you have that supportive kind of community, then your talents really come out when you have that support. So, and now that you're talking about comedy, how and video, how could someone who's not comfortable in front of the camera become comfortable being on video?
Yeah, so there are a number of things I would recommend. So I'm on TikTok. I coach some of my clients how to get on TikTok. That is a way that people are using to get onto video. I actually got a great piece of advice from Todd Clauser at Refine Labs, who tells people, specifically shy people, you could always get a TikTok and not tell anybody. You know, um, it's like you talk straight to the camera is the trick, and I always, whenever I'm recording, it's like I've always got my eye on the lens of the screen, so it's like if you just start talking to the camera about what you know or what you're passionate about, that's all the game is. The hard part is getting out there and doing it consistently, but once you start talking to the audience and then it works, you get a lot of confidence from that, and in my coaching, I always have my clients break down their audiences into sub audiences, you really kind of get granular on who you're going after. And pretty soon you find, instead of like going out there every day and thinking like, oh, what am I going to say? I don't have any ideas. I think of it as like, which audience am I going to play to? And this is also how I kind of got, connected to the accessibility world, where, and we can get into this if you want, but I had started as a video content creator. I wanted to get noticed. I wanted to just get my stuff out there and get seen right away. And one of the first things I noticed about a lot of the top video creators on LinkedIn was they did not have captions in their
Yeah.
videos.
I was really frustrated seeing all of that. I was so frustrated, but more slowly, more and more people are doing it. But still, it's not enough. Have you noticed?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, part of it is because they don't know how, So part
Right.
of what I do is I teach people like how to create captions and also why captions are important. But for the sake of my content, there was this moment where it was like I was nobody. I just started doing stuff. But because I wrote captions and because I made sure they were not just auto captions, I actually
Mhm.
went through and I fixed the spelling and the timing, and I made sure that um, they just flowed like natural conversation. All of a sudden, I had this audience that was listening to me because I was talking to them and nobody else was, you know? And whenever I'm talking to like the B2B world, whenever I'm talking to sales leaders or corporate leaders, I don't even talk about it in terms of accessibility, even though I know that's so important. It's just not on the radar of these companies. So
Yeah.
I just break it down to them like, look, if you caption your videos, more people will watch them. You've got this, you've got video, you're putting in the work to the videos, they're not getting the results that you want. If you put captions into them, they would do better. Not just because of deaf people, but also anybody who's on mobile, anybody who is in the back seat of an Uber. If you don't have captions on, you are just not talking to these people, and it was the combination of actually inviting people into my message who did not have sound. And then also, I started getting clients from the accessibility world. And it's like, this stuff is funny. It's
Yeah.
funny,
Yeah.
one of my clients, he's colorblind. And
Hmm.
like, it's just the reality of him being like, I don't know what my shirt looks like, really. I don't. you know and that's just true. And I find a lot of humor in like heartbreak and rejection and the frustrating parts of life. And anybody who cares about accessibility, that's all it is like it can be very frustrating. And
Yeah.
there's something humanizing about that, and people can really relate to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to acknowledge some people in the audience who've joined us this morning. Andrew. Good morning, Andrew from California. Where I
Morning.
used to live in California, and now I'm in New Mexico. Oh, this is when you're laughing at you, laughing with you. I think he means laughing with you. Like Chris, when you were talking
sometimes
about,
sometimes it's the other way though. Sometimes I have this like real try hard energy about me. And I have found that sometimes it's funny to put me in a situation where I am just the butt of the joke. Like the joke is on me and my audience can
yeah,
laugh because they are not experiencing it, you
yeah,
know. um there's something safe about that. So yeah, sometimes I do create situations where I am the butt of the joke and the audience is laughing at me because they're glad
yeah.
that it's me in that situation and not them.
I think that's such an important ability to be able to laugh at yourself, to be self-deprecating, because life is so dark right now. Like, just find any opportunity to laugh. Laugh at the dumbest crap you can think of. I mean, just Like
Yeah,
me and my family, we have these small moments where I just say the dumbest shit, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Or they just laugh at me, and they think I'm really weird. I say, "Okay, okay."
I think that's great though. People are weird. I
Yeah,
see. I
yeah,
see here too. Krista asked what my TikTok handle is. So my TikTok handle is Chris sells his soul. Chris
yeah,
sells his
yes.
soul.
I have to put in. I can't put it in Crystal Soul. Is that what he said? So soul,
Chris sells his soul.
his soul. Okay,
Yes.
his soul on TikTok. Oh, wait, I know your Instagram is. Oh, didn't post.
I
I don't
haven't
know why
really.
it's I don't
I
know
don't
why.
go on. I don't really do Instagram as much. I've just kind of fallen off. TikTok is really where I put more stuff there, or Twitter. I'm also on Twitter
Oh,
at Chris sells soul. So TikTok is Chris sells his soul. TikTok is or Twitter is Chris sells soul.
I don't know why it's not posting. I'm not
Uh,
able to post in the LinkedIn for some reason. I don't know why.
it's
Is it
okay.
something you can't do when you're in Restream? I can't put in the comments.
Yeah, who
Anything
knows?
like
I see DJ here
that. But
is comment.
anyway, I have all of your social media links in the post about this event. So go and find all of Chris's links in the post to this event, and you'll find his TikTok account there also. I also want to say DJ says, I need to catch up here.
She commented on the dark
DJ
humor.
says, hi, long time. You met once? You've met once? Online or in person?
Online. I've met everybody once online.
I know.
I remember DJ though. DJ no, I do
Yeah.
know DJ. But yeah, she commented on the dark humor, which is something that I do.
Yeah.
It's like the interesting thing about agreement and about supporting people is when you do that, it almost gives you license to go even darker with the humor sometimes, and like one of my characters, his name is Vague Man.
Yes,
People,
big man. I love him. And now you have another one,
I
Biff
got, I've
Pro.
got a bunch.
That's not.
I got a bunch.
how many how many characters do you have now?
Who
Two.
knows? I just create them, and then if people like them, I bring them back. So it's like Vegaman, he's my superhero
Big man.
character who does nothing. It's just me in a cape, and I say like bland LinkedIn things and say that I'm a rock star. I've
Yeah.
got Boss Bogue. So Boss Bogue is just me with a suit jacket and tie.
Okay.
But it's a much angrier, much more vulgar
Yeah.
version of me.
He is
Uh,
funny though. Boss Bogue is really funny though. You catch
yeah.
me.
Then I've got
Yeah.
the hot dog gurgler, which is just me in a
Mhm.
hamburglar costume, and I'd steal
Yeah.
hot dogs. Um, I've got a content marketing character named Lance, who's just like gives really tone deaf advice, or gives really advice on just things that he thinks are helpful but are not, like mental health tips that aren't really helpful at all. Um, and yeah, it's just like I just, I'm always trying to lean into like a different part of me and just kind of explore that. So, with vague men, it's like it's asking yourself like why is somebody vague? What makes a person nervous to say what's on their mind? So I did a video a few weeks ago on quiet quitting, and it starts with Vageman at his job, and he's like, "What an okay day at work. Maybe I'll talk to my children today." And then the scene starts, and it's like that's a vague statement. That's also pretty dark. That's also just like, um, the fact that he doesn't even know if he'll talk to his kids today because maybe you've got to work all day. There's something so relatable and yet tragic about that at the same time,
Yeah.
and the audience laughs because it's a really blunt expression of the truth, but it's just the truth. It's just the
Yeah.
truth, and I find there's a lot of phoniness on LinkedIn. There's a lot of
Yeah.
it's like it can feel like a very toxic place sometimes where people just talk about their wealth and their all their vanity metrics and how loved they are. So I think it is just prime for satire and
Yeah.
exploring the really not fun aspects of working sometimes, and really how terrible that can feel, and how unfair it is sometimes, and how unglamorous it is sometimes. Like, that is all funny. And if you're out there and you're a little bit more willing to acknowledge the truth than everybody else, suddenly you can get an audience.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're contrarian, if you have any kind of a contrarian view on something, people are attracted to it because they're not hearing other people talking about things that are really happening on LinkedIn. And they say, oh, I know maybe a couple of people talk about, are really honest about being on LinkedIn. And, then otherwise everybody's talking about the workday. Oh, I got this client, I got this client. And eventually it all starts to sound the same, you know? They're all basically saying the same thing. But that's LinkedIn, and TikTok is a lot more fun because people are having fun on TikTok and talking about all kinds of things. I mean, I've learned a lot from TikTok alone, and there's a lot of serious topics on there too that I do follow. A lot of serious, unfunny accounts on TikTok, but there are a lot of funny accounts too. But I wanted to know. My brother he still wants to be a comedian, a stand-up comedian, and at first he wasn't funny. No, he had somebody take video of his stand up in the very beginning. He just wasn't funny, but now he's gotten better and better at it. And he's learning how to do sketch comedy. Is that one way that you get better at stand up? Do you think is learning how to write sketch comedy?
So I always understood stand-up as different from sketch, and sketch is different from improv too. For
Yes.
stand-up, it's all about setups and punchlines. Where it's like you have the start of the joke, and then you hit it with the landing.
Right, right.
And the challenge is like, can you get from point A to point B as economically as possible? And it's really all about finding your point of view as a performer. What do you see about the world that's different than everybody else? Improv is like, you do not get to edit, you do not get to filter your ideas, you do not get to say, oh, that wasn't a good idea, let's try something else. You have to do everything that comes to you in the moment. And then for me, sketch comedy, and again, I come from a different type of training, so it's like at the Second City, it's all about the relationship, where it's like, okay, maybe you're both astronauts in this scene, but the scene is not about outer space. The scene is about, how do these two people relate to each other, and again, you're tapping into your real feelings. So it's like, this other astronaut, are they my mentor? Am I training them? Are they my equal? Are they my friend? Are they my lover? Are they, there's all these different relationships you can have with a person. And as long as you pick one and commit to it, you'll be fine. Whereas stand up is a lot of like, you just got to try things and then keep updating them. Whereas like stand up, you got to be getting those laughs. And language is a very subtle thing. So sometimes you'll have a line that doesn't get any laughs, but you swap out one word and all of a sudden it kills,
Yeah,
or or
yeah,
you
that
just
is
add a
true.
pause, or you add a reaction. So it's like I find stand-up is much more like reliant on the audience, much more like you're really trying to connect with that audience, whereas sketch is really about like, can we find like an actual human relationship between these two people, and can it be so real that the audience is gonna forget that we're up there making jokes, and then when the jokes actually happen, the audience laughs because they can put themselves in the same situation as the characters. They can look up there and say, oh yeah, you know what, my dad acts like that, not quite like that, but yeah, I relate to that kind of a
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, yeah. I think that stand-up comedy attracts a lot more people. It has a much wider audience, does it, than sketch comedy or improv?
Yeah, so like improv is really a Chicago thing, you know. Um
Oh, it is. Oh,
like, well, I mean, there's improv elsewhere, but it really started as like an art form in Chicago, where it was like, no, this is not just a theater warm up. This is the whole show. Is people are going to go and watch us without a script, watch us have to make it up on the fly. Um, Second City's been doing that since the 1950s. And oftentimes what happens is people come to Chicago, they learn at the Second City, they learn Improv Olympic, they learn at these Chicago institutions, and then they go to LA or New York or whatever to try to make it as comedians. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty Chicago thing. New York had the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater for a little bit. Unfortunately, it
yes,
closed.
I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Amy Poehler's theater. Although Amy Poehler learned in Chicago, along with
Oh,
Tina
she
Fey.
did.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't. Oh, Tina Fey too, huh?
yeah, Tina
Oh,
Fey. She was Second City. Stephen Colbert, Steve Carell, um, Bill Murray, Gilda Radner. All these people. I think Gilda was. Yeah.
oh, I love Gilda Radner on Saturday Night Live. My parents would watch Saturday Night Live just for Gilda Radner. She was just hilarious.
Yes. Yes.
And
That's the thing about improv too, is they still teach it at Second City the way they did in the 1950s. It is a very classic kind of performance. And this is something, as I'm selling myself as a trainer and as a coach, this is something that I find big companies on LinkedIn still do not understand. you know um but there is just a different set of rules there. And the beautiful thing is, if I had to go up on stage with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, I would know exactly what to do, because the three of us are all going to be following the same rules. We're all going to be supporting each other. Again, remember, there's that unspoken rule that we are trying to make everyone else on stage look good. So if I had to go do a set with Tina Fey, I know she's not going to sell me out and try to make me look stupid on stage to make herself look better. She's actually going to be trying to make me look funny. She's going to be trying to create situations where I can get the laugh, and because there's that understanding between everybody on stage. They're like, it does not matter what happens. I'm going to support you. I'm going to say yes when you throw out a decision. That's how you get the confidence to just go up there on a moment's notice and start pulling stuff out of thin air. It's because the other people on stage are going to support you.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's really interesting to see how different Saturday Night Live is now, because I think back in the 70s, early 80s, they were really funny, but now it's so much more different. I don't really watch it now, but the
Yeah.
comedy has changed somewhat. I
Yeah.
don't know how.
Well, there's a couple things. One, so you have to remember that 90 minutes is 90 minutes today, just as it was in 1975.
Mhm.
The difference is there are more commercial breaks now, and the cast of Saturday Night Live is much larger. And I think they are trying to go back to their roots a little bit, but what happened is they stopped relying on their cast to create characters, and they started bringing in major celebrities. So you start bringing in Robert De Niro, and it's one of those things where it's
Big
like, okay,
mistake. Big mistake.
yeah, Robert De Niro, Alec Baldwin, and it's like, okay, well, I guess all these celebrities are playing the president and all these major characters and stuff on there. And, how much room does that leave for the rest of the cast? Whereas you watch those classic seasons, I was born in the late 80s. So I watched a lot of 90s Saturday Night Live. So the early 90s, that was Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, Mike Myers, Chris Farley. Phil Hartman did it all. Phil Hartman is the only SNL player who has played 3 presidents. He played
Oh,
Reagan, he played Clinton, and back in the day, he played Donald Trump, back before Donald Trump was president, But they let that.
yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
okay.
they let their cast members do that, though. And at some point, they stopped trusting the cast, and at some point, it became like, oh, this is a really important celebrity that we're going to be parodying. So let's bring in an A-list Hollywood actor. Whereas I think in those old days, Gilda and Belushi and all those people, they were in their 20s and they were kind of unpolished, but the show was theirs. Whatever they were going to make, whatever take they were going to have on events, that was the cast. So since then, again, you have larger casts, you have less screen time due to commercial breaks, and now you've got to compete with Oscar-winning celebrities just to get on the show. It's just I feel it is not the same as it used to be. It feels like the stakes are too high, and they lost some of that edge and some of that realness.
Yeah, then you have a lot of comedians who want to be on Saturday Night Live still. They're all clamoring to be on the show. So let me see. CJ also said, oh, she says she loved Chris Farley when she was growing up. Yeah, she was so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I see here.
Guy, David Spade. I don't like him. He's not funny. He makes like the dumbest movies. And then my older sister was watching Joe Dirt. No, Joe Dirt, the
Uh-huh.
movie. And we were watching it. I didn't know what it was about. But we were watching it, and it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay, I can't even remember anything as dumb as that movie. It was just the stupidest movie. And it was her favorite comedy film of all time. Her favorite. So there's no accounting for taste, Okay.
Well, I mean,
Like,
people have their own taste.
I
I
know.
liked David
Yeah.
Spade when he was working off of Chris Farley. They very much had this relationship. It was like a very classic kind of like vaudeville bit, you know, where you've got the big crazy energy guy, and then you've got the straight man, you know, and Farley was big and crazy, and
Yeah.
David Spade, you know, balanced him out because he was sarcastic and he was smaller, and you know, Chris Farley was all heart and David Spade was all sarcasm, you know. And I was actually just about to publish a TikTok about this, but in improv, there's a philosophy that everybody falls into one of three types. Either you are the head, the heart, or the X factor. So I am a head player. I live in my head. Tina Fey is like that. And Harold Ramis, another example. Like, there are all these writers. If you're a writer, oftentimes writers play from their head, right? Where I try to lose myself in the scene, but I'm always thinking structurally. I'm always thinking what comes next. I'm always thinking, what does the audience expect me to do? You know, I play from the head. Someone like Chris Farley is a heart, right? You think Chris Farley, you think John Candy, certain types of player. It is just like, they go out there, they are not in their head. They've got this energy about them that is just addictive, that people like. And Robin Williams, I would also say, he's played from the heart.
Oh, Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, you know,
Man.
legend.
Yeah.
And then there's the X Factor. The X Factors are just friggin' weirdos. You know, John Belushi was an X Factor. Amy Poehler was a bit of an X
Yeah, he
Factor.
was. He was out there.
Yeah. There are just certain types where they're just bizarre, and you can't quite pin them down. There's no one quite like them, and they bring an element of chaos to the ensemble, you know? So I always say, when you want to understand yourself as a comic player, first you have to understand, are you a head, are you a heart, or are you an X Factor, you know? And
those are three things that you need to know before you're interested in pursuing comedy. Are those three things that you need to know which one you are, or does it?
no, I mean, it's one of those after the fact things where, you know, that's not like an official comedy rule. But as someone who I've directed a lot of shows, you know, and I've had to cast ensembles, I think that's one thing that LinkedIn doesn't realize about me is, you know, many of the shows that I was in, I was not on the stage. I was the writer, I was the director, so I was up like in the booth, but I was actually not performing. And a lot of what I do is, you know, I have to look at an ensemble of people, a group of people, and say, like, what do we got here? You know, who can go out there and make that really genuine connection? You know, who's got that X Factor kind of edge that we can surprise the audience with? You know, really looking like, what are the tools of the people that are in the show? But as a performer, you don't have to worry about that. As a performer, what you want to do is you want to just run on intuition. You know, you want those honest choices. And the more you tap into your real feelings and your real perspectives, the more truth and integrity that's going to bring to the performance. And, you know, the further you can push the envelope, once the audience is on your side, because you've shown that they understand, you know, you understand the emotions that they're going through. Yeah, you can really get away with pushing the boundaries.
Yeah. That's one of the things about comedy is you can break a lot of rules. I'm trying to remember, what was that guy's name on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel? That comedian that was out. What was his name again? I forgot. It's totally escaped me.
I haven't watched that show since season 1, but she's very funny. I don't know which comedian you're referring to.
Oh, it's driving me crazy. Who was Lenny Bruce? Lenny Bruce.
Yeah.
Lenny Bruce. He really broke a lot of rules in comedy. And he got busted a lot of times too. So yeah, she was
Right.
those, but she was just fascinating because she was super intelligent guy, and she was just riffing, and I mean he was funny, but he was serious, like funny serious type of guy. I don't know. He had a very dark side. You know those comedians they have a dark side, like Lenny Bruce and who else?
George Carlin. George Carlin is really
Oh
famous.
yeah, she's another one. Yeah. Oh, she was brilliant.
Yeah,
And
him.
Richard Pryor. No, somebody like Richard Pryor. She's just more filthy, you know. She was just filthy, and I mean, she was kind of funny, but it
Well,
also depends on your mood if you're watching when you're watching him, because you're watching
yeah.
any comedian.
I mean, so this is like the thing, though, is, and this is why I don't get all worried when people are like, oh, comedy, we can't get away with certain things in comedy anymore. And it's not like it used to be. And I'm like, hey, comedy has always existed in this gray area between like what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. That's how it's always been, and Lenny Bruce and Bill Hicks and George Carlin, they are examples of that. And again, that's why I think it's so fun to do my stuff on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has these set ways that people think you're supposed to act, that you're supposed to talk about yourself in a certain
Yeah,
way. So if you come and you don't do that, it's very interesting, because all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, are we allowed to do that? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter because I'm doing it, and again, going back to this idea of comedy is just the truth, usually the best comedy has this element where the audience is like, I've thought that, but I've never said that, or they'll look
yeah,
at a situation
yeah,
and be like, you know what? I know I'm supposed to act a certain way, but what I actually think is this, and that's often what the comedian is doing. He's just going out there and really kind of showing,
yeah,
no, and you know what? I'm a human being. Actually, I completely ignore this thing, and this is what it's like for me, and when you have these moments where the audience can see like, oh yeah, I do that too, that's where the humor comes from, and once something becomes
yeah,
too prevalent, somebody's going to start making fun of that, and humor goes through different phases. It goes through different trends. And, I believe some trends are changing, but they always come back. Everything is cyclical. And, I don't know. Comedy's never going to die. It just is not.
no, no, no. It's funny you say that, but comedians they say things what that we're thinking, and I was like, oh yeah, we think that happens to me too. Like I was watching Ali Wong, Ali Wong on Netflix, and she's kind of dirty, but she's hilarious. I mean, she's hilarious. She's saying so much stuff that I could relate to. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. So she's hilarious. I mean, if you haven't seen Ali Wong, check her out. If you don't
Yeah.
mind a little dirty, well, she's pretty dirty, so, but she's hilarious.
Yeah.
Let's see who else. One of the guys. CJ participates in a comedy, local Orlando stock comedy lab level. Oh, never heard of it.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting too. And this is actually kind of an interesting thing about the coaching, is because like people want to learn the comedy, but it's something you have to like do continuously, So she
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah,
level 3 of what she was doing. And it's like, yeah, that's part of like comedy, is like you have to do it a lot. And improv, the golden rule of improv is this idea of, it's called yes and, the yes and rule. So if somebody says something or does something in the scene, you have to say yes. You have to accept the gift that they're giving you. And then the and is you have to add something onto it, you know? And even that is like, I'll do that with clients. We'll play that as like a 5-minute warm-up game. But like part of the reason why I'm able to improvise is because I've worked yes and for hours and hours and hours. You know, I've done practices where you are just yes anding somebody, you know, and it's not natural. It's not natural. People are taught to disagree. People are taught to criticize. People are taught to doubt others and mock others. And you really have to like reprogram your brain to listen fully to another person and be like, it does not matter what I think about what they're saying. Whatever they're saying is the show. And it is my job not only to accept that, but also to build upon it and, you know, create. In improv, they're not called jokes, they're called games, you know? So we're trying to create a game. We're trying to create an interaction in the scene where we both can play. And it's an unusual thing if you've never done it. And once you've learned how to do it, you can never go back. It just completely changes the way you interact with people.
So interesting. It sounds almost like life changing in a way for you when you're so deep into comedy and just it's like you kind of exist on a different plane a little bit, huh? Does it
Yeah.
feel like that? Yeah.
Well, this is why too. This is why I was so confident when I started my business, you know, and people who are in the sales world, people who got really popular on LinkedIn a few years ago, they were following a set of rules that made sense for them at the time.
Right.
And I see a lot of them get upset because the algorithm is not performing for them the way it used to. And I never worry about that. Even if my engagement is low, I never worry about that because I am following a different rule book. You know, I am following the rules of improv and I'm living them, you know, and I got connected, I got partnerships, I've gotten, you know, I've become part of the LinkedIn community. And, you know, I've made some really strong relationships with some companies that have really helped my business. And it's because I just stepped out into the virtual world and started yes-anding them. You know, I started finding people who were doing fun things, who were doing entertaining things. And I didn't ask, can I be a part of this? I just turned on the camera and started playing off of it, you know, and
Yeah.
playful is a hard energy to say no to, you know, and it's been so useful because now I'm not getting onto these companies' radars by sending them a cold email pitching them. I'm inviting them to collaborate with me, you know, and sometimes the first thing we do is we'll make something that's really funny together, you know, and that is such a much stronger way to introduce yourself. And you know, now instead of taking from them and asking, oh, why don't you give me this? I've given them support. I've created a situation where they have fun and they look good. And, you know, we did something special together. And, you know, I cannot find any better way to build trust than that. Once you do that with somebody, you know, you're on a different level together. And again, it's like, I am not an accessibility expert. You know, I am not like certified. But I just started yes-anding people, you know, and I wanted captions. So I started talking to people who were talking about captions, you know, and, you know, I started making humor about that. I started, you know, making videos about why you should make captions. And, you know, the response wasn't people being like, "You're not qualified to talk about that." People were just like, "Oh, I enjoy this," because it was true stuff.
Yes, yes. I see humor as a great connector. No. Even if you
Yes.
have a different sense of humor from somebody else, whether it's blatant humor, dry humor. I see it as a great unifier. It's a great way to connect with people, unify people, I think.
Yes.
Time is coming up on an hour now, and I've really loved our conversation. And can you tell us a little bit about your new course? I'm going to put the link in the comments. You just released a new video course, right? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. So I have released my first course. I'm so excited about it. It's called The Complete Guide to Selling on Video. It can be purchased at chrisbogue.io. Use the promo code. If you're listening to this in the first week, I'm launching it. I just launched it a week ago. So promo code Gimme Gimme, GIMME.
I cannot
Um,
place the comment. I don't know why.
That's okay.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is, I find most people who are doing sales, they do not understand video. If they are using video, their videos are too long, and they're not captioned. So this is a guide. You can start with absolutely nothing, and it teaches you on camera performance. It teaches you sales strategy. So I have a lead list you download, and I help you build your lead list. It is performing on camera, filming, editing and captioning, and then sending your videos out on LinkedIn and Gmail. And it's all about like, how do you make little super short videos that you can send to people you want to do business with that are going to drive you meetings? So I find video is not something the business world has figured out yet. They do not teach you how to make short sales videos in business school. They just don't.
Yeah.
But I do, so it's like if you're out there and you are a founder or you are a sales professional and your cold calls and your cold emails are not working as well as they used to, check out the Chris Bogue method at chrisbogue.io, because video is a game changer for me. I send out 5 videos a day if I'm doing outbound sales, and oftentimes I will have a 100% response rate. It's 5 a day. If you do 5 a day, that's about 100 a month.
100% response rate. Wow, that's
Not,
amazing. What if
not
you?
always. No. And so on a good day, it's that on a regular day, it's more like around like I'd say 60 or 70%.
Yeah. What if you're looking for a job? You're a job seeker. Is it better to send a video? A video?
I've helped a lot of people get jobs by using video. Yeah.
Just by sending a video, not a resume. Just send a video, and
Well,
then maybe
so I advise people to do something like this. So let's say you're going to apply at a company. Before I send a resume, I would connect with people from that company who have a similar job title to me, or maybe I would connect with their content marketing team. And then, I would send a video being like, hey, Juana, I'm about to apply for this open position. I see this position on your website. I wanted to see if you could give me any advice about who's going to be getting my resume. I want to learn what they care about. And just creating that little human interaction. Usually they'll interact with me. They'll give me some advice. Now, when I send the resume in, I could say, hey, I was talking to this person on your content marketing team, and I know your sales team is working on this and this and this. And then, I would probably reach back out to that connection to see if they can help me get my resume actually seen. So a lot of my method is find the actual human beings who are going to interact with your resume and use the video to get on their radar before you actually send that resume in.
I think that sounds good. Maybe I'll try it one day. Just randomly, you know. But that's a good idea if you want to apply for any job that you really want. It's a good idea to send out a short video, 1 minute.
Yeah, I always try to do
Short
everything
video.
in a minute or less. So it's a 1 minute
Yeah,
video
yeah,
that's about them, you know. So I write down on my desk, I'll write down you, and I'll be like, hey, I saw you're doing this, and I know your goals are this, and I know you're hiring for this. So here's why I think it might be good for you and I to speak together. You know, and then
yeah,
you make it short, and you make it really easy to set a meeting with you if they want to meet with you, you know.
yeah.
And yeah, if it's short, polite, professional, and captioned, you know, they've got the words on the screen there. If you only take 30 seconds, you could get basically anyone to listen to your message. You know, you just got to be a little thoughtful about how you put it in front of them.
I think that's something you could also do too, is help job seekers um, send videos to potential companies they want to work for. That would be
Yeah.
a cool, thing
No,
for
this
you.
is something I've
Yeah,
done. You know,
yeah, yeah,
it's because again, most people are not doing this. Most people just email out a bunch of resumes and call it a day. You
yeah.
know, and it's like you take 30 seconds to be the person that they remember. That might be the difference
Right.
between you.
It's a great way to stand out on video. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you talked about your course, and do you have any final words to share with us before I have to cut this off?
No, this was a great interview. I guess my parting note to everyone will be caption your videos. Um, I know it
Yeah,
seems like it's a lot of work. It's really not, especially if you're on TikTok or YouTube. Um,
right, right,
those will generate an auto transcription for you. So
right.
start with that and then just go spell check it. Go through the script, fix the typos. It only takes a couple minutes. But that could be the
Yeah,
difference between your video going viral versus your video not being seen by anyone. So caption your videos. If there's one thing I've learned on LinkedIn, it's that people really appreciate it. And, you know, you just, people want to hear you. Trust me. You know, you just got to let them in.
right. Right. And then oftentimes when you're scrolling, we're all scrolling during the day on our phones, right? I mean, the videos are automatically on mute. So every time you see videos doesn't have captions, you're going to keep moving along until you stop at a video that has captions, and then you're going to watch it. So just make it easier for captioning, makes it easier for people to see your videos. So please caption your videos. I say this all the time. And eventually I got really sick of saying it. So, but you have to
I'll
keep
keep saying
saying,
it.
forget it, no? You got to keep saying it. Okay, thank you so much, Chris, for being my guest this morning. It was wonderful chatting with you, and I hope the people in the audience learned some things from you about video, captioning video, and about a little bit about accessibility and learning more about you and who you are as a comedian and how you do what you do. So thank you for sharing that with us. And in the meantime, everybody have a great day. And I'll see you next week with who's my guest next week? A podcaster next week. So tune in for that and have a great day, everybody.